Welcome to the Loaded Goat. I'm Aaron.
And can we just start the show already? I'm Chris. I'm Chris.
Yes. And today we're doing Barney's physical.
When was your last physical? How did it go?
I mean, I never feel good after my physical. I don't know about you.
No one does.
They don't ever come in and say, you know what? You should be a case study on how to live. I mean,
you're making all the right decisions. No life changes needed.
None.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Yeah. So I tell you something, this episode, I've always loved this episode. I think this is a wonderful episode from start to finish. It's very fun. I don't know. Yeah.
It's very fun. There's one motif that I couldn't get around that I felt like was lazy writing.
Well, I'll have to hear about that. You want to wait till we go into
the show? I mean, because it's a theme throughout.
Yeah.
You know, the use of hiccups for him to not be able to eat felt like they gave up. They could have tried something else that actually inhibits your ability to eat. Like he could have food poisoning. He could, I don't know. I just feel like I didn't believe that part, and I thought it was stupid.
So you felt like, what if he broke his mouth?
If he broke his mouth, would have been great. Yeah, like old glass jaw,
Yeah. They don't really do stuff like that. They don't do food poisoning. They don't do. I don't even think they do nausea on the Andy Griffith Show.
Yeah, I mean, what if he tripped and loosened a tooth and wasn't able to chew on anything, so he had a solid liquid diet? I don't know. Like hiccups. When I have the hiccups, my life goes on.
I hate the hiccups. I get so mad.
No one likes I'm not negating that, but when you have the hiccups, would you go on a hunger strike?
No, I wouldn't go on a hunger strike. But if we're talking about he needs to overeat to gain a pound in a day, I mean, he may not. His body may be reacting against it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I have my thoughts. I'm fine with hiccups being used in this whole thing. I mean, we've got an episode where a guy's getting stretched. He's having to pack on pounds. Hiccups are welcome in this universe.
Okay. All right.
So let's dive in. This episode first aired on September 28, 1964. It's directed by Howard Morris, who played Ernest T. Bass. One of several episodes he directed. He actually...
Is this the first he's done?
Maybe on premiere-wise. I don't think it was the first one he did, because, they would shoot do these out of order.
Yep.
And funny little story. It's... anybody who's read The Boys would know this. He actually saw that Ron Howard had an interest in directing and encouraged it. And Ron Howard actually cast him in Splash. In the role, I think that he'd originally considered Jack Dodson for, that the Dodson daughters told us about. Yeah.
Interesting.
So we open with Barney coming in, and he is upset. And it turns out that Andy forgot that this is the 5th anniversary of his hiring.
Oh. I just went through my 10th anniversary at work, and I get it.
Did they do anything for you?
I got a text message, which I was happy with.
From your boss, yeah.
Text message. Get some extra vacation. It's baked into the system.
Yeah, some people they take that really seriously. I mean, when I was at my old organization, I mean, they streamlined this eventually, but when the organization was smaller, they do basically an appreciation lunch where the CEO would take something your supervisor had written and read it to the about you and you'd stand up there and they'd give you a paperweight or something like that. Now, what was so funny is he did that with somebody one time, and I guess he wasn't really hard up on his rock and roll. And he goes, so-and-so is a huge fan of the group Bon Jovi. And, that was really funny.
Well, it's humiliating on a lot of fronts. You don't want to lead with Bon Jovi.
I mean, I gotta be honest with you. If I was having an anniversary and my supervisor wrote, "Yeah, he's a huge fan of heavy metal music," I'd be like, I'm a little embarrassed that was the first thing you thought of.
Yeah, correct. You still remember that from the bottom of my resume.
Yeah.
But you're working on a prayer at that point, so I guess.
Oh, living on a prayer.
Well, I was adapting it to the conversation.
Okay. Some people take it really seriously and some people don't. I'm really have never been one to care about this, but obviously I'm not Barney Fife, who is bummed. And, Andy apologizes, and then he tells Andy how much he's enjoyed working with him. He's trying to be sincere, and Andy just seems like, okay, whatever. And Barney goes out on a call irritated. And of course, Andy wasn't acting like himself anyway, but when he leaves, Andy grins, and he calls Aunt B and says they should have a party a little earlier. And he just has to go to Mount Pilot to meet with the civil service office.
Just a simple, quick meeting. All it is.
And he gets there and he learns that deputies are going under civil service requirements with physical demands that Barney may not be able to meet. And the reason for this is that too many unqualified deputies are getting hired. I wonder who they might have had in mind at that point.
Yeah, they're just targeting twinks here for starters. Well, but yeah, they're totally going after Barney.
Yeah, and other deputies around North Carolina, I suppose, that are like that. And back at the jail,
Napoleon. They're going after Napoleon.
Napoleon was never a deputy. Napoleon led. They're not requiring this for sheriffs. You want to get elected sheriff, and you're
yeah. Maybe they're trying to force. Maybe this is a thing. They're like, all right, these guys that aren't 5'8", 145 pounds, they need a little kick in the pants to gain a little bit of confidence so that they can run for sheriff because they're so qualified. So it's more of an incentive system to kind of help them not settle into their current roles.
Because that's what we need is more people with a Napoleon complex running for public office. In the back of the jail, Floyd, Opie, B, and Barney are preparing for the party. Opie says Barney is coming around the corner and they're going to have to start without Andy. And Barney walks in bummed out and they all come out and surprise him. And he is touched. I mean, really touched. And Opie gives him a waterproof wristwatch that is stainless steel and engraved. And
my favorite part. Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
It says 5.
My favorite part about this scene is that when Opie comes in, Barney tassels his hair, and then you can see like a little kid meets like he's growing up. Opie spends the next like 30 seconds fixing his hair, which I don't think was an acting choice. He like does it first where he does it and then he puts his hands down and then he keeps trying. It's more just like, can you leave me alone?
Yeah. And when he was younger, he would not have cared if somebody just tussled his hair.
Yeah.
So Barney's really touched as Andy pulls up to the jail, dreading the conversation. And Andy comes in and Barney gets a piece of cake. And Andy asks him how much he weighs. It's around 139 pounds. And everyone leaves the jail and Andy and Barney sit down. Andy tells him about the specification and hands him the letter. Barney is upset because he doesn't meet the requirements, which are you have to be 5'8" and 145 pounds. And Barney is off by less than an inch.
He's so close.
So close.
So close.
So close. So back at the Taylor household, they are all pondering what to do. The weight was not a problem because Aunt B can put it on him. I mean, that's, it's not going to take much work. And then Andy remembers that Asa Bascom had to use a harness to take care of a pinched nerve, and he came away a half-inch taller. I actually think this is not out of the realm. I mean, because you hear stories all the time about people after back surgery and all kinds of things coming back either taller or shorter. Yeah. So
I don't hear that all the time. But
well, it's not. I mean, not all the time. First of all, we're not really walking around talking about people with back surgery, but you do hear when people have a disc removed, they do come away shorter.
Yeah. Well, so what I thought about in this scene is I'm pretty sure it was Goldfinger that there is he's like going through James Bond, Sean Connery's going through an exercise facility and traps a guy in a stretching machine where you lie down flat and then it grabs your arms and your legs and it shakes you back and forth and he turns it up to full speed, then leaves the guy there. Do you remember this?
That's Thunderball. And the guy does it to James Bond. And what James Bond does is he gets him back by basically locking him in one of those heated spas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember that image too. Okay.
Yeah. So Andy gets the idea, and Andy then says to Aunt B, with me stretching him and you fattening him up, Barney is liable to be a bigger fellow than he thinks he is. And we go to commercial.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's good. It's good. And this episode was produced by Pod Machine. As I've said it before, and I'll say it again, they do great podcasts at a great rate. Go to podmachine.com to learn more and enter Loaded Goat at checkout for a 10% discount.
We're also looking for sponsors that are also washing machines, time machines, any dishwashing machines. We're doing anything. So if you've got a machine, let us know. We're pro manufacturing.
We are pro manufacturing. We're pro American manufacturing.
Bring the jobs back home.
Bring the jobs back home. Yeah. Although we do vet anybody who wants to buy ad time with us or ad space with us. And so if you come in saying you have a time machine, we're going to have to do a little research.
But I think we got some references we can push you toward.
Yeah, there you go. So after the break, Barney is against the idea of being stretched and says, "You're dealing with a delicate mechanism," which
He is.
a total Barney Fife.
You never know what you're going to shake up and screw up with those organs. Get a rogue pancreas in there. Who knows what's going to happen? A bile duct all of a sudden is detached from the host. Think about this. The regulation. Oh my God.
I mean, I don't know if this is a legitimate medical device, if this was something they used. I think it kind of was, but it
looks like a piece of underwear that you put your head in, and then then you got to stand on your tiptoes.
I mean, it was, I don't mean to imply that 1964 was the dark ages, but physical therapy wasn't where it is today.
It seems like it's no more just rub a tennis ball on it type stuff.
No. So Barney agrees to do it, and Aunt Bee brings out dinner, and Andy loads his plate. And this is like, I just love this scene. This scene makes me laugh every time he's just loading it up, and we do a close up, and Andy says, "And a little butter," and he just slaps a huge gob on it.
I've got a little bit of I don't think that they were doing the fattiest foods they could. Like eating 4 corn on the cob, right? Like that's not going to fatten you up.
No, I was kind of like, if you were really wanting to do something like this, and really fatten somebody up, I would probably just do thick pasta.
Yeah, totally.
And load up and dessert and load up on that.
Like the steak and the potatoes are just going to fill you up. Like those are heavy, but the potatoes are just going to slow you down in the process, I think.
Yeah.
I would go hot dogs. I would go, you want to get as much stuff that your body can't process.
Yeah.
Eat Oreos, all the Oreos in the world you can find.
I got to tell you, if somebody said, "I'm going to fatten you up and you've got to eat corn on the cob," I like corn on the cob. I don't know if I like that much corn on the cob.
It's not corn on the cob, but yeah, I don't want to get fat on corn on the cob.
I mean, I'm not like that kid in that video who's like, "It's corn." I mean, I'm not like that kid. I mean, that kid can eat it, would love all that corn, but that's just not my jam. I mean, I can eat some corn on the cob, but not that much.
But if you're going to do corn, like if you're talking about fattening up, let's do some elote. Let's get some mayonnaise in there, some cheese.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's plenty of. I'm surprised she didn't just be like, "I'm casseroling." It's casseroles for the next 8 days.
Yeah, it's like a meal train.
Yeah. So after dinner, Barney is so full that he is sick. It's probably all that corn on the cob. And the next morning, they put the harness on him, and he's uncomfortable. I mean, he's just hanging there in a closet. And
that's the privacy.
And then as Andy leaves, he says, "If you go anywhere, don't go far." And that's pretty funny.
That's a good joke. I like it.
Yeah. And of course, we cut to Opie, and he's telling his friends that Barney is hanging himself.
Entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah. And he's telling them that he's hanging himself, and he's apparently doing it in the Taylor household. And he's doing it slowly, too. And so the 2 friends give him a nickel so they can see. And they look in the window and they see Barney reading the paper, and they start arguing over, is he really hanging himself? And finally, Barney hears them and runs them off saying, "What's the matter? Haven't you ever seen a man with his head in a harness before?" This scene always cracks me up.
Yeah, I feel like these kids know too much about hanging. And then I want to know when they run off if OP has to refund their money.
Oh, that's kind of like what happened to the Russian and The Sopranos. It's kind of like, did Opie have to give those kids a nickel back?
That's exact same thing that I thought of.
Exact same thing. I mean, those are the 2 biggest mysteries in the history of biggest outlying questions in the history of television.
I completely agree.
So later, Thelma Lou comes in with a malt for him. I mean, which seems like a very, very fatty malt. But then she gives him a kiss, and she shuts the closet door, and he lets out a yell. And so we're like 2 days before the physical, and Barney is just killing it. He's already 5'8", and he only needs to gain 1.5 pounds.
I'd be worried about the 5'8" though, and he's got to be doing that every day so he keeps his height, right? Because he hunches when he stands, right? You got to maintain that.
I think he's still got to do the harness the day before, but I don't know with the hiccups. I guess he doesn't.
Yeah, I do it the day before. I mean, a harness with hiccups sounds dangerous, right?
Yeah. Yeah, me just saying, it does not sound good. And then, but at dinner, he's talking, and he's just talking, and he's talking, and he's talking about the ridiculous requirements and how they don't really see the person, which I'm kind of like, no, Barney was hired on his own track record. Barney would not have a job. But he keeps talking, and he develops the hiccups, and he tries some home remedies that don't work. Like, hold your breath and take 5 sips of water. I will tell you, here's what I have found. takes care of the hiccups. If my only real one that I'm really sure that I feel like I can try this and it might really work. I can have an ability that I can just gulp down a glass of water.
Oh, and that does it?
I almost find it almost kind of shocks. I wouldn't say it shocks the hiccups, but it almost kind of resets everything.
Because it makes you vomit, and then that resets everything.
It doesn't make you vomit.
I have been known to talk someone through a deep breathing exercise that I kind of make up on the spot, which, your diaphragm is flipped over. So my theory is you have to make the space in your chest for it to unflip itself, like a stuck toilet that's running, And so I do, deep breaths, and then you exhale a little bit more, and then you take really slow, big breaths, and then a little bit more. See if you can hold your cage open. That typically works pretty well too, but you need a good pupil. And I found that my wife lacks some of the studious qualities that it takes to succeed at this specific area of academia.
So it's all her fault.
Well, she just doesn't do the exercise,
Is that really what causes the hiccups? Is your diaphragm flips over?
I think so. Yeah. I was told that when I was little, and no one's ever corrected me.
Yeah, I don't know. But if you can gulp down water, if you've got that ability, give that a shot.
Okay.
And if you
but not soda water.
Not soda water, not coffee, not anything else. Just plain
tequila
old water
and water.
Yeah, that's right. No, and if you really are in a bind, reach out to Christopher, and he can maybe teach you.
Yeah, I'll put some ASMR like breathing exercises on this YouTube channel.
And if you don't get it right, it's not Christopher's fault. It's yours. So he tries these home remedies. He can't eat his food. And then the next day, he still has the hiccups. Apparently, everybody in town knows because Floyd calls to check in on him. And he asks if he is inhaled in front of an electric fan. Never heard of that working.
I do like it, but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I took a second to think about that. Like, would that just take the breath out of you? And it would I don't know. He's now down 2.5 pounds, and the physical is the next day. And so he goes home, and the next day he comes in wearing salt and pepper, and he's carrying his gun belt. The hiccups are gone, but he's ready to call it quits. He says he paid for the uniform, so he's going to keep it, but he hands Andy a whistle with a chain on it, and Andy gets an idea. He does. He does indeed.
This is pretty ingenious, but it turns out at the weigh-in, you can wear your ID and have it on a chain. And he tells Barney to wait. So we go to the physical. Barney passes, just barely. And they come out, and he takes off his shirt and reveals that his ID is hanging by a huge chain. And they rush out, and we go to commercial.
This is good gag humor.
Good gag humor, yeah. And in the epilogue, Barney says he is looking forward to dinner, and then his hiccups come back, and we close. And, I think that's the least of his worries at this point. At some point, he's going to get to enjoy a nice meal. He's just going to have to deal with the hiccups for a little while.
Yep.
So don't be that way. I'm doing all the talking here.
What did I think of the episode?
Yeah. What did you think of the episode? Yeah.
I thought it was fun. New theme. I enjoy Barney being he's being forced into physical comedy, where typically he makes a choice to do physical comedy. And so this one is an episode that's written around him being in that position, which I liked. I thought Thelma Lou was adorable throughout the whole way, and there were great interactions between them. And then, Opie got serious, did his face rub when he's really thinking. So that he really thought this through. And then the other piece is it has little throwbacks, I feel like, to Gomer Pyle USMC, the episode, because, they're trying to hit these physical demands. So I enjoyed that part as well.
Yeah.
Who's doing all the talking now, Aaron?
Okay. Well, I appreciate you, pulling your weight. I agree with you. I think personally, this just had the tools that make an Andy Griffith Show episode great. You had, you had some great physical humor. You had a challenge where people have to band together to help somebody. You had great writing, and you kind of, I know you weren't a fan of the hiccups, but I felt like, you kind of didn't know, you don't really know where this episode is going to go the first time you watch it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. So how many whistles would you give it?
7.
Oh, well, okay. No, we're going to have a real gap here. I'm giving this 10.
Oh, wow. A 10. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. No changes on my part, but I'm happy you have a 10.
I wonder if Christopher's going to like this episode as much as I did.
And I didn't.
And you didn't. You didn't. And that's okay. Any final thoughts?
No, it's fun to break it down. Always good to see you. Loving the beard.
There's no beard. Christopher needs some glasses. I'm liking your beard or whatever it is, or just, hey, I don't feel like shaving for a couple of days.
It's Bosley for my face.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, thanks for listening. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. And if you think about it, subscribe. Next week, we'll do Family Visit. Till then, Christopher, if you go anywhere, don't go far.
Yeah.